Here, we are given that 5 tan x plus 4 is equal to 0, where x is an element between 108 up until 360. And then they went on to say, use a diagram. So if you're going to use a diagram without the use of a calculator, you're going to first start by putting this thing here. You're going to make the trig ratio to be the subject. So if you make the trig ratio to be the subject, you're going to have 5 tan x, which is going to be minus 4. And then you divide by 5, you divide by 5, and then you say the tan of x is going to be equal to minus 4 all over 5. And then, since you're going to be using a right angle triangle, you're going to go to Cartesian plane. And then you say you have 0, you have 90, you have 180, you have 270, and then you have what? 360. And then you want to know, according to this, we are looking for a trig ratio like tan x. Where is tan going to be negative? On which quadrant do we expect tan to be negative?
Second and third.
We expect tan to be negative on the second quadrant and also on the what? On the fourth quadrant. So it means Elena can draw their diagram on the second quadrant, or they can draw their diagram on the what? On the fourth quadrant. How do we know which you are going to use, the second or the fourth? You come and check here. They say x is an element between 108 up until you get to what? To 360. Meaning, in other words, we don't want you to use this one. And we are saying it should be between 108 and what? And 360. So where are we supposed to have our diagram? We're going to have it on the what? On the fourth quadrant. Being able to decide where you are going to draw the diagram is half the job, guys. Mara, it's very important. Most people, they get it wrong here. So you'll tell them, because we measure our angle anti-clockwise, starting from here, we move anti-clockwise up until we get to the hypotenuse side. This is x. If it was theta, I was going to say this is theta. If it was alpha, I was going to say it's alpha. And then from here onwards, you have a right angle triangle. Since you have a right angle triangle, then you can define 10 using a trig ratio, which says which we have saw, tower. Now, what is tower? It's opposite all over adjacent. Okay? So we can come and say, okay, now what is opposite? You are going to say, okay, opposite, when we're using an aid of a diagram, you can regard opposite as x, as y. And then we can regard adjacent as what? As x. Meaning, in other words, here, we have x all over, or we have y all over x. And then let's check. We have a negative here. Which one should be negative? Which one should be positive? Does it make sense for x to be negative here? So it means we are going to tell them which our y is going to be minus 4. But our x is going to be what? Our x is going to be 5. So this one goes with this one. And then this one goes with this one. The negative is in the middle. It could have went to 4. It could have went to 5. We don't know. It depends on which quadrant we are. So because we're in the fourth quadrant, x is positive on the fourth quadrant, but y is negative. Now, what is missing here with the diagram? We are looking for the hypotenuse side. So how would you get an hypotenuse side? To say r squared, which is going to be minus 4 all squared plus 5 all squared. Root and root. And then a root has a plus and a minus, but since we're talking about r is always positive. What you get if you take this?
40.
Root of 41. And then we take the positive one. And then you come and say which here you are going to have root of what? Of 41. And then they will give you a mark for that. They will give you a mark for the diagram and then for getting r. Now let's go and look for the things that they are looking for, man. They say which Elena should tell us which what is going to be 2 cos 180 minus x. Now 180, these angles here, we should remember them. They are special. These angles here can reduce.
Yes.
180 can reduce only. 90 and 270, they can reduce and change. So this one, it reduces and what? And change. What do we mean by that? We mean, Gucci, you can remove the 180 basically. We are trying to say Elena should remove the 180 and then they're going to be left with a positive angle. The angle is always going to be positive. So in other words, you're going to have something like this. You're going to have 2 and then you're going to have the cos of x. Now, here's what we are not sure of. We are not sure of if, what We are not sure if this cos is going to be negative or is going to be positive. How then do we know whether we're going to have a positive cos or we're going to have, guys, what is important, the angle can't be negative, the angle can't be negative, the angle is positive. No? What can be negative or positive is the trig ratio. The trig ratio can be something like this. I can have minus the tan of x, that's what I'm allowed to have. I can have minus the cos of x, that's what I'm allowed to have. Now, how do I know whether this thing here is going to be positive or negative? You can use your calculator there. Using the plus minus rule. You can say, which you have 2, and then you have cos 180, and then you say minus 1. You're not interested in the answer, you're just interested whether it's positive or negative, this thing. Is it positive or negative? Negative. And then you come and put this thing here, it's supposed to be minus here. And then you're going to have equals to. Now, what is cos x? The other mistake that I've seen that learners make is like they say, which they're going to put x instead of x here, they come and put something like this. Again, they can say, what is cos? Let's define cos. How do you define cos? You say, which it's x all over r. Okay? And then if it's x all over r, but they will come instead of x, they will come and put x all over r here. That's not true. This whole thing here, this whole thing here is the one which is x all over r. The whole trig ratio is x all over r. Who x? Agree here you have cos x here. I'm saying now we're looking for cos x. What is going to be cos x? Cos x, this is cos of x. What is going to be the cos of x is adjacent all over hypotenuse. And then you have minus 2 again, open bracket. You have x all over r. Then you have minus 2, open bracket. X, what is x according to the diagram? It's 5. What is r? It's root 41. And then this one, you get something like this. It's minus 10 all over root 41. And then you get your 2 marks then. It's 1 for substituting and then 1 for the final answer. Or rechoosing, you get 1 mark for rechoosing here. Yes. Is it not? 2 root 41. What do you get on your calculator? And I just type, I assume which minus 2 root 41, yes.
Root 41, all over 41.
Okay, but this is the correct answer. And then it seems your casual calculator doesn't allow you to leave your answer unrational. So it rationalizes. You can't have a square root in the denominator. So you're eating minus 10. Root 41 all over 41. Yeah, how did you get that? How do you make sure that you don't have a root on the denominator? You multiply by root 41. You multiply by root 41 both sides. This one multiplied by this one. It says root 41 multiplied by root 41 gives us 41. And then this one multiplied by this one. That's what your calculator is done.
Then let me say, if we write this one.
It's fine. Stop here. Stop here. We know which you don't know these things. So yeah, but usually there was a rule, when I was still at school, they said which we are not allowed. They taught us this thing to say you are not allowed to leave your answer as a rational. You are not allowed to have you are not allowed to have as a root on the denominator. So we are saying we are rationalizing it. Okay, let's go to the next one then. 5.1.2. 90 can also reduce again. But 90 can reduce and change. So if 90 is reducing and change, we're going to have this thing as the cos squared x minus the sine squared of x. Yes. Now let's go and check what we're going to have. As long as you have squared, guys, it doesn't matter. Anything that you square is going to give you a positive answer. As long as you have squared, if it's reducing and then you have squared, it's always going to be positive. And then from there onwards, you know what is cos. Okay? By now you already know what is cos. Cos it's 5 root 41 all squared. Minus, we know what is sine. We don't know what is sine, but we can get sine. What is sine? It's opposite, which is minus 4 all over root 41 all squared. And then you type this in your calculator, what do you get? 9 all over 9 all over 41. And then you get 1 mark for reducing and changing this one, substitution, and then you get 1 mark for the answer.